What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Taste Like Music. Jason, Joe, and Crams are here. Smashing Pumpkins Week, Side 3, and today we are talking about bands that are mistakenly referred to as grunge from time to time that we do not believe actually are grunge. So I think this happens quite a bit. I think what grunge is a very vague thing, and, we may list bands here that you do think are grunge and miss ones that you think are not. So let us know in the comments how we do here. My personal definition of grunge is a combination of classic rock, metal, and punk in some form or another.
It felt like when it happened, it was just like everyone that was rock but not hair metal. It's tough. It's such a loose term.
I think for a lot of people, it's specifically the bands from Seattle and bands that were on Sub Pop. I know a lot of people don't think grunge is even a genre, it's just a scene. So here we go. These are some bands that we believe not to be grunge. Obviously, Smashing Pumpkins. We're doing it during Smashing Pumpkins Week. For me, first of all, not from Seattle. Second of all, I think their influences are much more, I don't know, European, new wavy, shoegazy. I don't think they quite come from the same lineage as those grunge bands. But you guys want to throw any more out there?
Well, to me, the big one, and I think Joe's gonna agree with me, is Alice in Chains is a metal band, pretty much. Like they're just darker and uglier. Like you don't get any punk with Alice in Chains really at all. They're too slow, first of all. And Cantrell on guitar is just like this almost like classically influenced guitar player. I've never really felt the grunge with Alice in Chains, especially because from Seattle, but I don't know.
I'm gonna blow your minds and say that I don't think any of these bands are grunge. I think the only actual grunge bands, there's two of them, Green River and Soundgarden. And I don't think anyone else really fits the bill. Like Nirvana, I don't feel grunge from them. Like they're punk and alternative. And I just don't get that like classic rock influence that I think you need. Alice in Chains, I agree with Cram, too metal. Even like Pearl Jam, like maybe 10 sort of dabbled in grunge and it was a grungier sound, but it's very slick. Like it doesn't quite fit grunge for me. Like grunge was like two albums, early Soundgarden and Green River, and like that's it. Like I don't even believe in grunge, to be honest.
I think 10 is a quintessential grunge record because, like what Jason said, you get that meanness, that toughness, the punkiness, plus like you get McCready with obvious classic rock guitar riffs coming in. I think Screaming Trees are a clear-cut grunge band to me. Mudhoney, but like not. I wouldn't put Jane's Addiction in there. They're too rhythmic for it.
Definitely not Jane's Addiction.
No,
People
definitely
go
not Jane's
crazy.
Addiction.
Like
Jane's Addiction are weird. They come out of like more of the metal. They're like hair metal adjacent in a way, coming out of LA, and they're obviously a lot weirder and different than that. But yeah, I don't see them being the same as the Seattle bands at all.
they're
But
an
like,
alt rock. They're alternative. They're same with Smashing Pumpkins, and Nirvana should be in that as well.
but like, do you have to originate in that form? Because like the albums that Sonic Youth put out in the early '90s are like pretty close to grungy to me.
See, I don't know. Like, I don't think that that's grunge. I actually, though, I haven't said this yet, but I disagree with you about Alice in Chains. I think Alice in Chains I don't think you need all three elements. I think if it's some combination of classic rock, metal, and punk, then you can qualify to be grunge, especially coming from Seattle. I definitely get the metal and I definitely get the classic rock. They kind of like fit alongside on the classic rock radio format before Metallica and other metal bands didn't. Metallica didn't really kind of work their way into that until the Black Album, and I think they were already kind of making metal classic rock friendly.
Well, also like, how many albums do you have to do to be a grunge band? Because the first Stone Temple Pilots album to me is grunge, and then after that, they're just like, yo, we love Led Zeppelin. Like, so how many do you got to do? Because to me, they are a grunge band, but really only because of one album and just the sound of his voice.
I don't know the answer to that, but yeah, I would say they're grunge. I think the first record for sure is. I would even go as far as to say maybe
Purple's pretty grungy,
Purple's pretty grungy, I guess.
but it's still like I don't know. They're not from Seattle, so I don't count them as grunge. I think you have to be from Seattle.
That's weird for me. Like, why do
It,
you have to be from
it's
Seattle?
more of a scene than a sound. I think if based on the sound, like Soundgarden's the only band that's grunge, but the scene I think is really what makes a grunge band.
What about
Which is why you can't include STP or a band like Blind Melon, which somehow gets lumped in, but they're just not a grunge band at all. They have nothing to do with grunge in that scene.
Candlebox is from Seattle, but I don't really think of them as a grunge band.
Close. They're definitely bluesier than like Alice in Chains, but they have a little bit of metal in their sound. Just a pinch. But back to your question about Sonic Youth, I don't think Sonic Youth at all is grunge. I think they're coming from a much more avant-garde angle.
For sure. But like, I don't know. It's tough.
But then you start to run into like we're talking about a lot of the precursors to grunge. Then you get the stuff coming after grunge, which is influenced directly by the grunge bands, often referred to as post-grunge. And where do you draw the line? Would you consider Live, someone like Live or Bush, to be grunge?
Live's
Post
first
grunge,
album is not
post
even close to grunge. They're more grunge on like Throwing Copper and Secret Samadhi than on the first one. First one's like kind of like got some Afro beats on it and stuff like that, janglier.
How about Soul
Yeah, no,
Asylum?
Soul Asylum. So are we saying there's only 3 grunge bands ever? That doesn't sound right.
No, I think there's like 6 maybe.
What about Babes in Toyland? To me, they're more like indie alternative college rock or something. Soundgarden for sure. Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Mudhoney, Temple of the Dog, Green River,
Screaming Trees.
Screaming Trees, the Toadies,
alt rock. I see L7 thrown in there. I don't know enough about them to make a claim either way, but
Veruca
they're in
Salt.
there. What's that?
I like L7 a lot actually. What about Hole?
Mm, you could make a case. I
Yeah.
think you could make a case for Hole.
What about early PJ Harvey? That first
Yeah.
record is pretty
Too
grungy.
punk. Too punk. Well, it is pretty grungy, isn't it? It's interesting. It's a good point. It's an interesting point you raised there, Mr. Crazer.
Based on our criteria, her locale is the only thing holding her back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Location, location, location.
It's close. I think dry is close to grunge. But maybe that's why I like it so much.
What about Dinosaur Jr.?
Alt.
Yeah,
You got to
not.
throw Mother Love Bone in there, obviously.
Motherland one was one I was going to bring up because they are not really grungy. Like they're very glammy.
They're almost in that like Jane's Addiction space.
I would yes, I would put them there. They're from Seattle though, so that's
You'd have to
two out
put
of three.
you'd have to put the early Silverchair stuff in there.
I think that's literally the
Post.
definition of post grunge. Like they like kicked off like just aping Nirvana so hard on Tomorrow and Israel's Son that that's the definition I think of post grunge.
Collective Soul.
Yeah, yeah. That's to me, Collective Soul is the post grunge like band because it's like yeah, we like these little hard guitar riffs, but we're not very hard.
Yeah, I agree. Not grunge.
All right. You got any others?
Well, the Pumpkins definitely. See, I almost do consider like Gish and Siamese Dream in the grunge vein.
I don't hear it. I don't hear the grunge. It's too pretty and it just doesn't feel like dirty enough. Like maybe too much psychedelia, maybe too much of that like shoegazy sound.
It's
Like
the shoegaze that makes it not the shoegaze
Really,
influence.
really think there's a lot of shoegaze on Siamese Dream.
I mean, he was hugely influenced by My Bloody Valentine. And I
well,
don't think he directly sounds exactly like it, but I think there's enough of what he's doing with his guitar that makes it not grunge.
I'm not saying I know the answer, but I'm just saying it's borderline for me. I'm not saying it's too far removed.
It's adjacent. It's definitely adjacent.
All right. Well, let us know what you think. Have we called out any bands that you think are grunge? What other bands have you heard called grunge that you do not believe deserve to be called so? And is grunge even a thing? Let us know in the comments. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.